Start.
You are live. Please proceed, madam.
Good morning to one and all. It's a wonderful day, and I feel privileged to extend my warm welcome to all presented here. COVID 19 have drastically affected our lives, but it cannot stop us from learning. As it is quoted, live as if you are to live as if you are to die tomorrow, and learn as if you are to live forever. With this beautiful quote by Mahatma Gandhi ji, I would now like to call Professor Rebecca Sandra to welcome the dignitaries for the session.
Good morning, one and all. So I'm here to give a welcome speech to today's webinar. With the blessings and inspiration of our chairman, late Dr. S. M. Venkatapati sir, I extend my warm welcome to Srimati B. L. Ramadevi Madam, Chairperson of EPGI in her absence. I also extend my warm welcome to our two dynamic CEOs of EPGI, Mr. Pramod Gowda sir and Mr. Rajiv Gowda sir in their absentia. I take great pleasure and honor in welcoming our beloved Principal Sir, Dr. Prakash Sir, who has always been our driving force and inspiration. We welcome you, sir. I
Thank you.
also
Thank you.
take
Thank
great
you so much.
honor in welcoming the captain of our ship, our beloved HOD Sir, Professor Kemparaju Sir, who has always been our constant source of support. We welcome you, sir. I also extend my warm welcome to all the other department HODs of EPCET and my dear faculty members and all the students of EPCET. We welcome you all. Hope you have a very informative session. Thank you. I would now like to call upon Dr. Nagraj Sir, Associate Professor, Department of IEC, to welcome the guest speaker of today's webinar. Over to you, sir.
Uh, Good morning, everyone. I thank the respected management and our beloved principal sir, Dr. Prakashias, for giving me the privilege to introduce the honorable chief guest, Mr. Mahesh CV of today's webinar. At the outset, I thank the student participants and the faculty members attending the webinar on testing strategies for security threats. I find immense He is currently working as Senior Quality Assurance Engineer, Springworks, Bangalore. He has completed his engineering in computer science and engineering. He has vast experience in software testing technologies, starting from Java, Selenium, TestNG, and JavaScript. He works with e-commerce application projects. Most of his work is related to back-end transaction processing. He has a valued experience in the testing technologies. He has visited abroad for crucial releases of software projects. He was awarded the Performer of the Year for a couple of times. He has delivered for he has been delivered the best performer in his organizations for which he has served. I thank Mr. Mahesh CV for sparing his busy schedule for sharing his valuable inputs for the current generation. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Manjesh. Without taking much of the time, I welcome Mr. Manjesh CV on the stage.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I'm really glad to be a part of this particular session, and I'll be really happy uh, to do this. And yeah, so we can start, right? Or do we have anything else pending in the intro part?
Rebecca, you
Yes, sir.
muted.
Sir, thank you, Mandesh sir. And now we welcome our respected principals to talk a few words about the webinar. Over to you.
Yeah, good morning. Today it's Manjesh sir's session. Let me at the outset thank Mr. Manjesh for taking time. We
Thank
know
you, sir.
that today complete 5 days they'll be packed up. So Saturday we have made it. We have been a regular series where we have calling all the industry people to come and deliver talk in the subjects what we have in the current semesters. Uh, Today is another.
Sir, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ
Uh,
ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ
yeah.
ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್.
Yes, sir. Now you're. I'm audible, sir.
ಎಸ್ ಸರ್ ಎಸ್ ಸರ್ ಎಸ್ ಸರ್.
Yes. Yeah. Fine. So, dear students, today we have testing strategies. I always keep on telling, as a software engineer, we need to know what if my quality of the code is good enough. I think testing will become minimized. We need to understand how quality of the code and what are the best practices in coding. If we can actually implement these things uh, in when you are in a software development life cycle, your testing job will be little easy. I want to tell you how exactly testing started, especially in the manufacturing industry. Later, it came to software industry, IT industry. Japanese, they started this concept called as quality assurance. Quality assurance was not a word which was picked from Europe. There was something called as in a production setup, quality control was there. That means once the product is been manufactured, they used to test the quality of the product, then put a seal called it's okay, and that it released for the market. But uh, then Japan is started thinking that you there is something in our mind that in my production life cycle, I produce a product which is having certain defects. Then only I actually go and test it. Then if you have made your product 100% correct with zero defect, I want to underline zero defect, then why do you want to test it? Then why do you want to spend so much of money and investment as separate department on testing? Okay, then okay, they reformed the word from quality control to the quality assurance. Okay, and lot of quality gurus also came from Japan, and they started telling that yes, we need to produce the product which is totally about zero defect. It's not telling that 99.9% is correct. Okay, so this all this ppm model, parts per million. So here also in software engineering, if my quality of the code is 100% correct, I think we'll minimize the testing process very clearly. So today, lot of testing we people, it's always known that we have been reading unit testing, functional testing, that testing, okay, white box testing, black box testing. These are all part of the theories. Okay. So today also there are yes, one many times I have seen students hearing that, sir, testing doesn't require coding. This is one conception. I think Manjesh will be able to throw light on that. But really
Yeah,
understand, you should be actually knowing more than coding to understand what is the error in that. It's a very wrong concept which has been in the minds of the student, feeling that testing is easy in compared to getting into developer. No, that's not the scenario. So, dear students, take this profession. Testing itself is one solid vertical in IT space today, and today even it is already generated lot of jobs, and there is lot of job opportunities in testing also. Anybody has a strong intuition to look certain defects in any of the things that what he sees, I think he can become a good tester. It's not only
absolutely.
implies to the, it not only implies to software testing, or it could be anything, any product you look into out that. If you have that intuition and if he has that strength, I can actually look into the micro level, what is the problem in that. I think you can go and become a good tester, and testing can also be taken as a career. My dear friends, please do understand, it's a misconception that testers are different from developers. No, that's not the scenario. Okay, we have Manjesh today, one of the expert for this area. I don't want to speak, I have people have been listening to me for every sessions. uh, Thank you so much. Over to Rebecca. Rebecca. Yeah.
Thank you, Principal Sir. Thank you, Principal Sir, for wonderful words. And now we now welcome our beloved HOD sir for today's webinar. So welcome sir to today's webinar.
Unmute sir. Unmute. Compressor unmute ಮಾಡಿ.
Thank you, madam. Today we have a great opportunity to discuss with us. So we will deal with testing strategies for the security threats. So without much waiting, so we can directly go to the experts and we can listen to them and we can get benefited from the experts. Okay, madam. You can move.
Thank you.
Go to the expert.
Yes. Thank you, sir. So now we hand over the session to our speaker, Mr. Manjay, sir. So please take over.
Yeah, and thank you so much. As I said, like I'm really glad to be a part of this particular session, and like as Dr. Prakash has conveyed, the importance of testing. So in the current world, or whatever the IT firm, whatever we are, like our future will be, especially the students who have gathered here. So testing has a very important role, and there is a one misconception that testing doesn't require coding. So that was a very nice point that was highlighted by Dr. Prakash sir. So currently the industry needs QA, that is quality assurance, and which means testing, and the testers equally need the coding skills, because there are multiple, like automation is the new, I can say, a terminology. So manual testing is important, and manual testing needs your skills, like identifying even a small defect in the system. So the purpose of testing is that we give a very clean product to the end users. So basically, any software is ultimately developed for the end users. So if the end users are having issue with whatever the software that you have developed, then end user will not use that. So when they are not using it, your business is impacted badly. So that is the reason why testing is very important. And when it comes to testing, like there are many streams in testing itself. Now, as I just told about, manual testing is there, automation is there, and when it comes to automation, there are many other splits in there. Like, what are you automating? Are you automating the functionality? Are you automating the non-functional parts like security, performance testing, load testing, stress testing? So there are various, like it has sub branches. Under testing itself, we have various things to explore, and like when you explore as a student, when you start exploring, you can focus, like based on your passion, you can pick, okay, I like doing this, so you can pick that particular way and you can start achieving your goals. So I can just give you a small example. There are some instances where I have seen the QA getting better packages than the development team, because QA doesn't, like they just doesn't require coding skills. They also need additional logical and analytical thinking as well, because they need to think from the user perspective, derive the use cases, and it's very important for a QA to even guide when the project is in the development phase itself. Because as a QA, when you go through the requirements, you might feel, okay, something is not like user friendly, or something can be improved to make the system better. So as a QA, that will be a major role, like to suggest and to make sure the product we have delivered is at its best for the end users to use. So this is it's getting a bit delayed, so let's start with the topic whatever we have choose for today, and at the end we can, like anyone who has clarifications or any doubts regarding QA, please feel free to ask, and I will be happy to guide you all. So let's start with the topic for today. Okay, sure. Hello. Yeah, so let's start with our session, testing strategies for security threats. Let's go. The contents that we would be dealing with is security testing and like attributes of security testing and why security testing and classes of threats. And also we'll be discussing on what are all the security testing techniques, security testing approaches, and the tools that we use for security testing. And also we'll just have a brief on API testing, and then we'll conclude on that. So starting with the security testing. So what is security? First of all, you might be thinking, like, to tell you, security testing
Pardon, sir.
is, hello.
Pardon, sir. Sir, your screen is not shared, sir.
Oh, I have shared it. Let me just check again. So can you see my screen now?
Uh, 1 minute, sir. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
fine. So I was just talking about the contents that we will be covering for today's session. So as I already said, we will be knowing what is security testing and attributes for security testing and classes of threats, and what are the different security testing techniques, security testing approaches, security testing tools, and we'll just have a glance on what is API testing. So, and then we'll conclude. So, to start with security testing, uh, yeah, to start with security testing, uh, what is security? So, security is like we give to the, like, imagine you have a account on Facebook. Let's just imagine. So that Facebook, whatever you are using, you will start using it only when you feel that your Facebook application is secure to you, correct? And to to attain that security, we should make sure that the application is flawless. And when I say flawless, it should be having major things that need to be considered. Like the application need to be having authentication, authorization, and there are other concepts as well, like integrity. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, as I was telling, like authentication, authorization, confidentiality, availability, integrity, non-repudiation, and resilience. So when I say authentication, authentication means that you should be like, as a user, I should be able to convey to the system that I am the true user of the application. So how can you say that you are a true user? That is by using a proper username password, that is credentials. So credentials, if you are not providing a valid credentials, so you are not authenticated. So that is how you prove to the system that you are you basically you are authorizing that I am the true user of the system by providing your uh, username password, and there can be second step of verification also. Many companies use the second step of verification, that is basically two factor authentication. Like maybe you receive the code, one time password on your mobile application, I mean on your mobile phone or on your email. So making sure that you are able to proceed further and access whatever the details that you wanted in that particular system. So that is authorization. So authorization, it is like in simple I can say it's the access level. So there can be different types of users in the system. Say I am just a normal user of the Facebook, but there can be an admin, sub admin, or a person who can handle other things apart from the user level. So that can be a different access level, I can say. So just to be even simple, I can say is we have the principal, sir, and under the principal we have HODs, and HODs, then assistant professors, students, so on. It's like everybody have their own different privileges, and as per their privileges, they can perform the different levels of whatever the roles that they have. So that is authorization. And when it comes to confidentiality, how safe is my data? Like whatever the data that I am uploading onto particular say website, is it not shared with anyone else? Like is it safe? So that is confidentiality. So it is very important for us to maintain the confidentiality of whatever the transactions that are happening in a particular system. And availability is very important in the current situation or the current day, because what is availability? It is 100% available, to be precise, the system should be always accessible to me whenever, wherever, no matter what. Like I should, if I have a proper internet, I should be able to access that particular system all the time, and there shouldn't be any issues, or maybe the downtime of the system maybe. So that's why you might have seen like many companies, when they are having some deployments or some major changes, they might say sorry for the inconvenience, cause we'll be down for 30 minutes or we'll be down for 1 hour. And they usually do it in the night, so that no users, not no users, because there can be many users using it even at the different timelines. So they just notify you well before a month or at least 15 days, and they say we are not available in between these times. So that is about availability. And when it comes to integrity is nothing but accuracy and completeness of the data. So whatever the data that you have added in some system, so that data should be maintained, like the data integrity should be maintained. So it's like I uploaded something, and like if it is not stored properly or it is incompletely stored. And then also one more thing is, it is accuracy, like also with respect to completeness of the data, accuracy. So it should be the same whatever I have, or for example, we are using Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp Messenger, etc., and whatever the message that you are sending should be conveyed the same way to the other, on the recipient side as well. So if there is any issues in the integrity, then the system will fail, because integrity, like it can cause major problems, right? Like if you are sending something and the other person is receiving something, then that's like the system has completely failed. So that's about integrity. And non-repudiation, it is like as you all know, mostly people now are using digital signatures. So in a best way, I can tell digital signature is, imagine you are using your credit card on any online merchant sites. You will be asked for a CVV number, right? After you enter the card details and the expiry date of your card, you are asked to enter the CVV. So that CVV is a digital signature. Just an example. So, and also many people nowadays, especially after this pandemic, people cannot visit the office on the daily basis. Or like imagine if any documentation need to be signed. So we cannot go to the office, right? Like because it's very difficult because there's ongoing lockdown and other stuffs, and also it's for a safety purpose we are not allowed to go. So in that case, the documents can be signed digitally. So it's a legal concept basically in terms of security. So basically it's as a user I do my digital signature and get access to whatever I need. So that's about non-repudiation. Coming to resilience, so it is basically it is similar to the availability whatever I have told. It resilience has, it is a business term I can say. In like the business should be always available to someone even in case they are facing some security issues. So imagine I am Facebook, like there are many people, I can say, I cannot say a particular number, but there are, I can say there are more number of hackers who are trying to hack the any particular application. Just example, I took Facebook. So these kind of applications are vulnerable for security threat, but still Facebook is always available for you when needed. So what are the like other aspects you consider? So imagine if your account is hacked, you can still report it to Facebook and get it logged for some time, and then you can reset your account, stuffs like that. So that is about resilience. So you should be able to gain back the access, and the system should be available for you all the time. So that's a very important factor in terms of security testing. And also with respect to business standpoint, resilience plays a very important role in the long run of the business. So hope you got my point. Any doubts so far? Like all good, right? Hello.
Yes, sir. Everything is fine, sir. You
Okay.
can go
So
ahead, sir.
my audio is all clear, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Everything
This
is fine,
was
sir.
okay. Thank you
Fine,
so
sir.
much. Yeah. So we'll continue further. Thank you. So yeah, why security testing? So we have discussed in the previous slide, like what are all the aspects or attributes that need to be considered for the security testing. So now we will understand why we need security testing. So the purpose of security testing is pretty simple. Like as I already told, uh, imagine if you are using Facebook and like imagine in India almost 50% of the Facebook accounts got hacked. Let's just an imagination. So will the people still use Facebook? No. It's like people are worried about their data. And imagine if you are taking an example of any other e-commerce websites. So you are storing your card details over there. So basically, it might be your credit card, debit card, or your UPI. You have linked to such e-commerce websites. Let's imagine. So you get to know that their database is hacked or their server is hacked. Will you be like? Can you be calm? No, right? So you will be worried. So you will be worried, and you will go ahead and like you will just remove all your payment details on that particular account. You will stop your interactions with that particular website, and like you will never go ahead and use that product again. So that's a loss to the company. So companies are more worried about that because they should guarantee their customers that your data is safe with me, and my system is capable of handling the security threats. So that's very important. And like as we discussed again, so the revenue generation is because of the customers, and the revenue generation, if the customers are moving out of the system, then the revenue, there's no point of talking about revenue, because the revenue was getting generated because of your customers, but the customers have left you, so your business is in loss. So that's very important. And imagine your server was hacked. So how do you get the data? How do you get back the system again back into action? So that is really a tedious job, and for the architect, like it will require huge level of changes with respect to architecture of the system itself, because when you know your system is already hacked, your data is stolen, and uh, and the hacker still has access to your server. In that case, there are various things that the complete management need to reach out to their wherever their server is hosted. Say it's hosted on AWS or it's hosted on Azure. So you need to reach out to them. You need to ask them that my server is hacked. Then you need to like do some other, like you need to basically change the authorization or authentication techniques, change everything and get back all the data. So the cost involved in that is really high. So in order to avoid these things, security testing is very much important. And like it's very important for a company and the business standpoint to have these security measures taken care at the time of development of the project itself. So, and also legal implications. So, imagine your data is stolen. So, customer has now right to go ahead and place some legal case against you, telling that this company has stolen my data, and like because of which I am worried about my privacy. So when that comes into picture, it's very crucial and it's very complicated. So that shouldn't happen. So that is the reason why security testing plays a very important role in the development phase itself, to avoid all these things and to be on the safer side. Yeah, let's proceed. Class of threats. So when I say what are the different types of threats, like how can a security breach happen with respect to particular application or the system. So first one, let's talk about privilege elevation. So as I discussed earlier, we have different access levels for each user. So I'm just a normal user. I have access to just read or upload some data of mine. So I can, in the technical terms, I can say read and write access, but only to certain things. Or sometimes I only have the read access. I don't have the edit access. And in other way around, like I can read and write, but I can't share this to anyone else. So this kind of privileges. So as a like, what can hacker do in terms of privilege elevation is he will directly like once he's the user. Say I'm a Facebook user now, and what I did, I somehow understood the loopholes in the system, and I tried to get the higher privileges than what is needed. And I start extracting all the data, and I will copy and I'll steal that data by increasing my privileges. So it's just like in the Unix we have read, write, and execute, right? So it is similar to that. So as a user, I have only access to some things, but I use commands. Like I'm like as a hacker, I'll be aware of how is the server made, like whether the server is running on the Linux or Windows, whatever. And based on that, I will just go. I with my technical skills, I will try to get the access. Say like just one example is change ownership. We have some commands like change ownership and like getting the access to particular directory. So using such stuff, the user try to access the particular application, and he will try to get all the data which is of other users as well. And this is one sense, and then he will start maybe he will start selling your data in the market for someone who needs it, because data is more valuable today. So imagine you have the data of someone, you can do anything with that data, right? So it's a very important uh, attribute. So that is why privilege elevation is considered as one of the major threats, because and most of the companies do maintain their integrity by using various techniques to avoid privilege elevation, because not everyone can go and access the server directly, or not anyone like you can only just access your pages, that's it, and you can't do more than that, because we include as I said, like various techniques like authentication. That is, and in turn we have two-factor authentication. So that way we maintain that. Second one, let's go to SQL injection. So SQL is nothing but structured query language. Basically, it's the database. We have no SQL databases as well in the current world. Like we have no SQL databases like MongoDB and etc. I can say so. And these databases are basically for storing our data, whatever the data you upload or whatever the transactions that you do on a particular system is maintained properly in the database. That's schema. So that data can be extracted by using SQL injection. So how you do SQL injection is basically, imagine your website has any text fields. There the customer, or the not the customer, so the hacker basically hack it, hacker or the malware. So basically malware is again developed by the hacker, so I will keep the term as hacker for now. So the hacker, what he does, he will try to enter the SQL query, or he will be entering some expressions. Say, to give you a simple example, when you enter your username and then password and click on submit, you will be allowed to enter into the particular website. So what exactly is happening? There is data validation happening. So the username you entered is existing in the DB or not. We are doing a check. The password, whatever you are entering, is matching with the password that is present in the DB or not. And that basically returns true or false. It's a Boolean value. So imagine you entered your username, and in place of password, you enter some expression which returns true, and you submit. So when the statement is returning true, you are allowed to enter into the application. So it is like, so you know now. So as a hacker, I am able to enter some expression, meaning like I'm trying to uh, game with the system. So I'm trying to play a game, and I'm winning in that game because the SQL injection is not properly handled in the application. So that is the like SQL injection. I will be later showing you the statistics. How many percent of attacks have happened through SQL injection? So that's about SQL injection. Moving forward to unauthorized data access. So unauthorized data access, again, like I don't have the authorization to use principals as credentials, but what happens? I somehow, by knowing the details, access the data. So it can be because I have a weak password, or it can be because my username and password was easily, like I could guess. So error guessing, I can say. It's proper terminology is like many people we do, right, trial and error. So I just keep on trying to, maybe I can guess this should be the password and I can start trying, and then I try to steal the data. So that is unauthorized data access. So how do we avoid that? And coming to the URL manipulation, you can see every time you enter some URL, say gmail.com, you'll be landing on the Gmail login page. So you like, without logging in, if you try to access your inbox, like you just copy your URL, which has the gmail.com/inbox/priority or /start, like whatever the list of messages that you have, and you just log out and try to hit the same URL again, but you will be landing it. Gmail will ask you to log in again to reach to that endpoint. So basically, what I'm trying to explain is URLs are like, basically it can be a file on a particular server. So that particular file will fetch you the data and it will further perform the operation. So if someone can simply try to manipulate the data, and there are parameters in the URL, there are sometimes queries in the URL. So you try to manipulate the URL that you have, and with like, basically this uses get method. So like there are different HTTP methods like get, post, put, delete, etc., which I'll be further explaining you in the API testing phase. But just have an understanding, like there are different methods, like that I can say it's a request types. So customer can use the get method and try to extract all the data using URL manipulation. So for which we, most of the time in the current day, we try to even encrypt the data which we are passing in the URL also, so that even though if you have the actual username you are trying to pass, but you will not be, the system will not get you, because whenever you enter some data, system have encrypted format of the same, and system generates it when you actually authenticate with your credentials. So it is not possible until and unless it is encrypted and then fetch the data. So that is how we handle the URL manipulations. Now, denial of service. This is very important, and which contributes to the highest percentage of security attacks. That is denial of service. So when I say denial of service, what exactly happens here is, it is like this. Imagine your server is capable of handling say 1,000 users, but as a hacker, what I do, I continuously keep generating n number of requests from, say I have 10 machines, and from 10 machines also I start hitting the server with my requests continuously. And at some point, the server breaks and it goes down. And when the server goes down, uh, like I can say in our terms, you have heard like server crashed, because and this happens when first time when Flipkart has started the big billion day, they didn't know the traffic, so they never estimated like okay, this could be the number of traffic that our system can handle, but without but the crowd was more than what they expected, and due to which their server was crashed, and like the system was unavailable for 2 hours, and the 2 hours, the loss in the business could be in crores, because thousands of people are trying to access their system because they have a lot of offers and people want to avail them, and due to the increase in traffic, the system failed, and that is what happens in denial of service. But here, it's not the actual user, but the hacker is trying to utilize your resources. Like when I say resources, your CPU utilization is more than 95% or even 100% it is reaching, and your servers are not able to handle the traffic, and the server goes down. So when it goes down, like your business is affected, and like uh, many huge companies they are very particular about this, because when they say the server crashed, it's like people feel like why, like how it happened, or it's a question of like their, what to say, in simple terms I can say it's a question of their uh, mm, name, or like it's a fame, name or fame basically. So they, it's very important for a business to have a good name and fame, right? So if their fame is lost, then their business will go down. So when their systems get crashed, there will be a lot of critics about that, like they didn't have proper management, they didn't have proper servers, they didn't have proper data. People start blaming you, because it was your fault at the end, right? Because you didn't estimate it properly. So like, but when this happens through hacker, so how are you handling this? So I'll just give you one simple example. So how denial of service is handled is, imagine uh, every different system have a different IP, right? And each IP would have some limit. Say I can hardly hit a particular API or the endpoint 10 times. After that, the system says, we have noticed that you are trying to access more number of times than what was the actual limit, and we will block your IP for some amount of time. And after that, you will not be able to access the particular system for some time. So it can be similarly, like the best example is, imagine someone trying to hit your login API, and like say continuously they are hitting the login API or reset password. So what system, like it is programmed in such a way that it will take hardly 5 attempts, I can say. The standard is 3. Sometimes some companies follow even 5 attempts. So after 5 attempts, what they do, they say your account is blocked, and like you will be receiving a mail also saying that your account is blocked because you are continuously trying to hit the system or something. So just the idea or mechanism is that, so when we are continuously receiving hits from different systems on a particular API, we just block them, and that IP would be blocked for certain amount of time. And if we are very clear, or the security team in the company identifies it's a malware, then they will block that IP forever, so that we will not receive such kind of requests again, and our system will be safe. So that's about denial of service. Data manipulation. So this is same, like data manipulation again, like someone unauthorized people got the access to your account or to your website, and what they do, they put some wrong data on your website. So they hack your data, and they say like this account is hacked, and like they start showing some incorrect information on your website. So again, when this happens, it is very clear that the fame of the company is gone again, because your system is vulnerable to security threats, and because of which someone has hacked your system, and like they started showing some incorrect content. When they are showing incorrect content, the goal of your business is lost there, and like you might not be in a position to explain to all the customers that my account is hacked, and that is the reason why this is happening. But we shouldn't be at that stage at all. So that is the reason why we need to handle this kind of data manipulations by making sure our system is safe, and like it is not easily accessible to hackers. Identity spoofing. So this is again similar, like what we had discussed about having the username and password of a other user. So I falsely state that I am the actual user of that account, and I try to access that data. So, and this happens because of weak passwords. Say there was one survey where like you might have all heard about more than 6 lakh accounts on Twitter were hacked. So how? So it's very simple. So most of the accounts like have the generic password. Say 123456 is my password for one of the application. So there can be thousands of users who just put that same credentials as password. And when the hacker tries to run his script on that particular system, and like he will be able to get into your account, and he will be able to manipulate the data. Like maybe if he tries to post something on behalf of you, or he tries to uh, give some wrong information to others, to the society. So that's what happens in identity spoofing. Cross-site scripting. This is also very important, and like cross-site scripting is usually performed by highly technical hackers. So what they do, they try to enter some scripts, like basically any script they written in any language. Like I use JavaScript and I write a code, and I somehow enter that code and put it in the website of some other say business or account. So what happens, like anyone coming into that website, they feel okay, this is a part of the same website, so they feel okay. Maybe it would be written like this: please register using this link below here and get $500. So maybe the actual website is something different, but you just add this link, say to register, and you will get some amount because you register, or maybe the benefits that you get. They try to attract you with some nice polished sentences, and they try to get that like traction, and they make you click on that link, and when you register, all your data is lost. Like lost in the sense, they get all your data. So imagine while registering, you gave your name, phone number, your email ID, your address, everything you give, and that data is now stolen. And that data, what he will do, he will sell it to some other marketing people, and those people again get back to you saying like it's all linked. So that is how. And also with respect to cross-site scripting, what happens, imagine you are already logged into a system, and there is something called cookie. That cookie will have all the session details. So when I say session, whenever you log in into a particular system or a website, a session gets created for you, and all that session details are stored in the cookies. So, and through this cross site scripting, like these scripts, what happens is, uh, like when you click on those malicious links, that link will start running on the same application, and it will start stealing all your data, and that data will have capability to hack your account as well. So that is like really important from the company side, or the whatever the organization point of view. So they should be able to build the application in such a way that their application is not allowing any other scripts. Like maybe it can be HTML script, or it is a JavaScript, or CSS. It should not allow to upload their content on our application. So our system should be capable of uh, like it should reject it right away. It should not be in a position to accept such scripts in the application at all. So that is how we maintain that our system is not vulnerable to cross-site scripting. Now, this is just a graph which shows the increase in the percentage of attacks, basically. And you can see the percentage in 2009 is 12.4, and today, like today's data we don't have, but still you can see in 2018 the increase in the growth of attacks. So when it comes to like we still don't have data for 2020, and like for 19 we have, it is more than 2018 again. around 900 or 950%. But when it comes to 2020, the data analysis is still ongoing, and like the rate is even more high because the situation of market is not really good, and there are more number of people who are like facing the scarcity of jobs, scarcity in the like financially. So what they do, they try to steal lot of things, like it can be your data, it can be your card details. They try to access your internet banking, and they try to make transfers, like illegal transactions on the account. All these things happen uh, because of lot of vulnerabilities that what we have discussed earlier. And coming to the percentages of different types of attacks. So, as I told, the denial of service attack is the highest, and which contributes to 31.3% to the total number of attacks. And SQL injection goes next, which is with 30%, and then cross-site scripting and brute force. When I say brute force, uh, they somehow get access to your account. Say, I just create an account on Facebook, and I gather the APIs, say login API. I just capture that. I see what are all the contents, or what are all the data that we are passing in that API, and we try to randomly we write a script and we start hitting the server continuously with various combinations of username and password. So imagine he's trying for somehow he has 1,000 accounts with it, because maybe he purchased it from somehow, like as I said, we at some points we go ahead and register in some links, and that data he might have got the data from someone, and with that data, like he has now the username, and he tries hitting with various combinations of passwords, and he tries to, like, two things happen here. One is he is continuously consuming the resources. Second thing is, if he is able to crack even 10 accounts, he is benefited at that time, because he has data of that 10 accounts and he can misuse that data. Predictable resource. This is again similar to identifying what kind of system is a server running on, and he tries to get into the system, and he tries to uh, capture the data. And stolen credentials, as we already discussed. Like, I imagine I had shared with one of my friends my credentials, and he somehow shared it to a different person, and he again shared it to another 10 number of people. And in that case, what happens? So my account is now uh, like, it is two ways. One is like I trusted my friend and given him, but when I gave him, somebody else also saw that and they stole my credentials. Or it could be either way around, like uh, some of my unknown contacts also got to know about my credentials, and they started misusing my account or the data. So, and when I say unintentional 3.5% attack, so this is maybe because of the issue in the system itself. So when I'm developing any particular application, I should make sure that the resources that whatever my code is consuming is in a better way. So my code, whatever I have written itself, is not causing any damage to the system. So it shouldn't be consuming lot of resources. Basically, the CPU utilization. Or imagine one best example would be, imagine you are writing your code has a query to fetch some data, and that query is slow. It is slow because the query could have been enhanced in a better way to fetch the data. But say a simple example would be, I could have used joins, but I somehow used subquery. So usually subqueries takes lot of data. I mean, lot of time to fetch the data. So when it is taking lot of time, in the sense, the task is being running on our server. So that task is consuming lot of time, and because of which, uh, like without your knowledge or unintentionally, you are consuming lot of your CPU usage, and due to which your server can go down, and when it is down and it is not available, it is not safe, or users will not be happy. So banking trojans. So banking trojans, it is very simple. So imagine you get an SMS saying that please click on this link, you will be getting a loan of 10 lakh rupees immediately, or like some kind of statements which will attract you to click on that link. And when you click on that link will try to install some malware onto your system, or it will install some trojans. So what that trojan does is basically it will again capture all your data, and when your data is all captured, you are more vulnerable to the threat, that is security. Credential session. So this also we discussed, like imagine you have an ongoing session and you clicked on some malicious link, and then your session cookies or whatever that gets captured, and like user will be able to um, log in and steal your data. So these are like different percentages of attacks that are happening in the current world. So security testing techniques. Now, until now, we were discussing about like what are the possible security threats and how they happen, and as a user, like what exactly, or from the development standpoint as an organization, what are all the things that I need to consider, and how do I avoid these vulnerabilities, or uh, yes, so how do I avoid? So these things to consider, like I have to consider, okay, these are all would be the possible cases where my system is vulnerable to attacks, and I should try to avoid that. And how do I avoid that? Before the hacker does, I myself do that, and I make sure like I'm not able to do it. So, and one more important aspect in security testing is like not all the security testings can be done manually. There are multiple tools today we have, and like there are many open source tools itself, like which I can go ahead and like start using it. So I will just try to install that particular tool, and I try to perform the threats on my system. And like if the tool is able to identify, and then when it identifies, we will be sharing that particular threat to the development team, and we will tell them like this part of modules, or these are the possible threats that the following tool has identified, and we should be able, we should fix it as soon as possible. And when they fix that, so again we will be running one more round of testing using the same tool, and that tool shouldn't be able to identify, or should be able to break the things. So that is how we actually perform. So cross-site scripting, as we already discussed about cross-site scripting. So my system shouldn't be allowing any other scripts to be placed on my website. So my system shouldn't accept. So any, say, imagine you have a text field and you are trying to add your script code there and try to run it. So it shouldn't allow, because it should straight away say whatever the content you have added is invalid, or this content is not supported, stuff like that. And ethical hacking. So, as you all know, this is one of the major interesting subjects. And when I say ethical hacking, so I'm a white hat hacker. So as a white hat hacker, what I do, I try to break your system. I I purposefully try to identify what are all the different vulnerabilities present in your application, and I will be reporting this to the uh, organization or the management, and they in turn get them fixed. So that's about ethical hacking. Password cracking, so I shouldn't be able to. So most of the companies now have this standard to set up the password, so they strongly suggest you to have a combination of alphanumeric also with special symbols, and it should be a combination of uppercase, lowercase, stuff like that. So the purpose of this is, like, no user should be easily able to, like, when you are registering your account itself, we make sure that you are setting up your account with a strong password so that your account is not vulnerable. Not vulnerable in the sense, your since your account has a strong password in the sense it is not very easy to guess, or it is not very easy to break. So that is how why password cracking also is an important part, and like this is utmost this has got utmost importance. That is the reason why you might have seen any banking applications, they are very strict in terms of password, they are very strict in terms of captcha. Again, like, why captcha? Because uh, robots, like, or any scripts, you can basically write a script, and like you can send keys, and like you can try to automate. But when you have captcha cannot be identified by a script or a robot. So that is the reason why they say, like, confirm that you are a human. So they try to give you a captcha, and there are different types of captcha, as we all know. Like, sometimes it's a combination of numeric and alphabets, and sometimes it's audio, also audio based. So they say something and you listen and type it. And very popular now Google does is, it tries to give you some image, and it tries to identify, say, fire extinguishers or crosswalks or the bikes or cars, stuff like that. So when you identify and say, I'm like, continue, it will validate that. So that is how captcha also plays a very important role in terms of security, and most of the companies do follow uh, that, because just to make sure, like, they are not allowing any trojans, or they're not allowing any robots. When I say robot, it means some scripts, malicious scripts that is run by the hacker. And penetration testing, so this is very important. Like, penetration testing, it's nothing but you try to uh, break, when I say URL. So we discussed about modifications of the URL. So from the URL, what I try to pass some query, or I try to use some, as I told, I use get method and try to get the data, and it should stop me straight away, and it should say, sorry, you are not supposed to do this action, because we will not be allowing this. And coming to risk assessment, risk assessment, it is nothing but, as a company, like, you might have heard about planning calls. In the agile methodology, we always have the planning calls. When I say planning, imagine you are going to start something new, and that particular project has got so and so requirements. This is all it is. So in the risk assessment, along with the developers, then QA, and the business analysts, we have the project management team, everyone. Along with them, even the security testing team, or some companies have a separate testing teams also. I'm talking about major analysis. And few companies, they don't have separately security testing team, but the QA itself will take care of the security testing as well. So in that risk assessment, what happened? They try to come up with all the different vulnerabilities or what are all the different threats that can affect their system. And based on that, they evaluate and they come up with all the data, and like with along with the data, they also come up with what is the measure for them. So how do I avoid that? And then with all that data, they they figure out a proper plan. Okay, in development, when I'm developing, I need to consider some sort of things. Say simple things as such, like I should have a very strong password. I should have a very two-factor. I should have a two-factor authentication, and my server resources cannot be accessible so easily. So to access my server resources, there should be a proper authorization and authentication, which are very important. So in that way, we give this like yeah, as I said, the documentation will have all this. That is risk assessment. Security auditing. So imagine now you have developed the software. Now, as you all know, auditing is a common term. Like you might have heard financial auditing, or auditing even happens in the colleges. It's like just to verify or how the things are moving on. Like are all the whatever the transactions happening, is it correct or not? Like is it matching? Is there any differences? So to identify that, auditing happens. So in security auditing, there we MNCs, they have their own security auditing teams, and like I can say startup companies or some MNCs only, but uh, mid-range, I can say. Like not their revenue can be not very high, not very low, but they have a good revenue. So such companies, what they do, they get the security auditing team to their company, and they ask the teams to do the auditing. And also, to be precise, there are some companies who only do security auditing. Their job is, and their job is to identify the threats, and then they give you the list of vulnerabilities, and the development or the organization who have developed it need to fix them. So that's about security auditing. Security scanning. So this is again similar to auditing, and but here we say scanning because now, as I said, we have many tools which can do the security scanning. So what I need to do is I just need to give all the details. Say my account details. I'll just give one user account to that particular tool, and I give the URL of the application, and I say go ahead. And what it does is it will try to do all the possible things, whatever possible vulnerabilities, and it will try to fetch the result, and it will be providing it. Then, so once you get the results, you will be able to fix them, and then once you have fixed, you can again do the scanning, and then in the second phase, those bugs should be fixed. So that's about security scanning. Coming to SQL injection. So as we already know, SQL injection is a type of security threat. So before hacker does the SQL injection, we will be doing the security. We will be doing the SQL injection. So how? So you can do SQL injection. Say mm, simple thing is you entered an apostrophe and then try to submit. And if it says query incorrect, or it gives invalid, or it tries to give you the whatever the error message that comes up is in terms of technical language related to MySQL. In that case, your system can be vulnerable to SQL injection. So what you do, you try to like from the development phase itself, what you do, you try to avoid this kind of special symbols in your text fields, and you try to give a proper error message to the user that you this is incorrect, or it shouldn't say anything about the syntax. So it should say your username or password is incorrect, please retry. So that is how the messages need to be very clear, and uh, and in that case, like, SQL injection is handled properly. So that's about SQL injection. And vulnerability scanning, it's again the same as what we discussed in security scanning. So we have different type of vulnerabilities, and when we try to scan whatever the data that we are like basically that shouldn't be accessible through the security auditing or the tool that you are using. So it shouldn't be able to accessible. So that's it. And coming to posture assessment. Posture assessment, this is pretty clear. Here we the whole management again, and the development team, QA, everybody. Once the security testing is done, they all again come back and they start discussing. Okay, so these are all the security threats or the vulnerabilities identified, and this is what the fix we have made. And they come to confidentiality. Here it is like everything is discussed, and uh, they will come to a proper stage where they just wanted to identify if something is missed, and like if it is missed, how do we handle that. So that is what is all discussed under the posture assessment. And URL manipulation, this we have already discussed. So with respect to we try to use these different methods and try to fetch the data, and our URL shouldn't be allowing that, and the system should straight away block your request, and it should redirect you to the home page or the landing page, and you shouldn't be allowed to get into the system because you were trying to manipulate, or you should not be able to get the data whatever you are requesting for through the URL that you try to get. Buffer overflow, this is pretty simple. So imagine your text box is capable of handling 126 bit data, some certain bits of data. So say 256, 128, 1024. But you are trying to add on more data than what your system is capable of. So basically, how can you handle this is imagine if I have a limit of maximum limit, say 24 characters, I shouldn't be able to enter after I enter 24 characters, even if I type, the system shouldn't accept. So it's, when you don't accept, then it's pretty clear. So buffer overflow doesn't happen, and that is how this is managed. So in this, all whatever we have discussed, excuse me, few things are manually doable, but other things can be done only through the tools that we have. Uh, yeah, let's move on. Now, approach. So this security testing approach is nothing but what we are doing here in the risk assessment phase. So how exactly we do? So we identify or we understand the architecture of the system. Say hmm, you are developing your application using so and so uh, languages. Say I'm going to start writing and writing in Python, and I do develop my particular whatever the system or the application using Python or JavaScript or Java, C, C++, dot, whatever. So you decide and you say, this is the front end, this is the back end. Say, when I say back end, my database, what am I using? and also from the database to front end, what is are you using Node? When I say Node, it means Node.js. Uh, you are writing your code through Node.js, and front end you are using HTML, JavaScript, React.js. What is the technology that you are using? You go on deciding all this. That is what I say when I say architecture. So how the core structures are formed, like what technology you have used, stuff like that, that you verify. And you, after you understand this is what is my architecture, now you try to understand what are the different vulnerabilities that are possible when I'm using so and so technologies, and when I'm building so and so software using these technologies. So I try to analyze that, and whatever I have analyzed, I put it on a paper or a document, and I start, like as soon as I start developing, I will consider, okay, this could be a possible thing. So this is where I need to authenticate. Say when I'm building, my system should have a strong password. So I include the strong password. So I need to have, my system shouldn't accept the SQL injection. So my SQL injection, whatever the text fields that have on my system, shouldn't be accepting any query in the text field. So it should straight away reject it. It should accept only the password that I have provided. So basically, when I say it can be SQL query or it can be any regular expressions, it shouldn't allow at all. So all the things will be noted, and we will, whatever based on our analysis, we start implementing them accordingly. And like classify security testing. So you do classify. Okay, these are all the different testing. We say SQL injection, I can do manually. Okay, I will make a note. Cross-site scripting manually also possible. Through malware also possible. So I will make a note. All the vulnerabilities I will make a note, and I will decide accordingly. Okay, these things I need to manually check, and these things I can check manually as well as through our tool we can test. So you do that. And then threat modeling is nothing but you are again deciding like what kind of threat is affecting what particular flow. So based on that, you make a note. Okay, these are all the possible threats in terms of logging in or getting, authentication flow. These are all the different types of threats that is involved in hacking the whole server resource. So in that way, like whatever different kinds of attacks that we have discussed, we try to place it in a proper channel. So you are module by module, you are just trying to separately identify these could be the possible threats for this particular modules. And then test plan. So how do you test? What is your approach? Say I should be deciding on what tool I should be using. If I'm going with uh, test, excuse me. So I will identify the tool that I need to uh, do the testing, meaning the security testing to be done. And I should be able to figure out like how many resources will be working on the security testing, and what are all the different things that will be tested. You will prepare a document for the same. Say that is nothing but like in simple terms, test case. So that is what I have mentioned here. So you will be having like based on in the plan, as I said, like you will go on deciding what is the tool that you use, how many resources will be working, and what is the environment that you will be doing the security testing. Like uh, I'm not sure how many of you know this. Like we have different environments. Production is something which the end users use, but we also have the development environment. We also have the QA environment where development environment, what they do, they try to whatever the code is developed by the dev, they'll be committing all their codes, and they will be merging with that particular branch. So it's a dev branch. With the dev branch, they will be doing a lot of things, like most of the things which are under development, say, Eh, just to give you a clear idea, imagine your system is already like that is production environment, and you have got some new requests to add some new features or make some changes to the existing feature. Those things are you will be doing in the dev. So once you do in dev, you do a unit testing from your end as a dev, and then you commit your code to the QA branch. So once it is deployed in QA branch, the QA will start testing, and then the QA will approve it. Say things are working fine here, and this can be deployed to production. After that, the things will be deployed in production, and then uh, it will be available for the end users. This is the flow. So now in the test planning, you also decide, like, we cannot do security testing on the production directly, because it is like we are showing some vulnerabilities to the hackers. So always in the development phase itself, we try to do all these testing, and we try to identify the threats, and the fix for the same will be deployed, and the same thing will be later posted onto production as well. So when you are able to handle all those issues in production, it will be obviously handled on the production as well. So, but still, when the traffic is very less, and to make sure the things are all working fine, we do run our tests sometimes on production as well. It's because it's like double checking, just to make sure even our production system, like, it's because uh, I will tell you, say, there are more number of people will be working on projects, right? So there is something called as conflict. So when you try to merge your code, you might get some conflicts. Say something, whatever you have written might be impacting the code of other user. So that is the reason why we even do our level of testing in the production as well, just to make sure, like, when we deployed the code, no problems occurred on production. So to make sure that we do. And also there's one more environment which I didn't tell you, that is user acceptance environment, we say, where the client directly do the test. Like, even before giving it to the customers, client themselves, they do the testing on the user acceptance environment. Like, they identify, you might have heard, like, be a beta user for any application, so they might offer you. So imagine, even Google does that. Like, even before launching, say, Android 11 to whole market, they give it to some certain people. Say, you, when you identify yourself as a beta tester, you start getting these opportunities. They will ask you, can you be a beta tester of this particular application? And what they do, they give you the new features first to you, and like they ask you to verify, and when you are verifying, they also monitor from there, like if there are any issues. There are many tools, like, just one simple example I would like to give here is, imagine you are using Facebook app, and your Facebook app suddenly crashed, or any app, doesn't mean Facebook alone. We have various tools which even identify the failure log, and it will be giving it to the it will be notifying it to the technical team who is somewhere handling the project, and the technical team will be going through that log, and they will identify, okay, what caused this log. Maybe something failed, but why it failed? Is it something issue with our code, or is it something issue with the device that user is using? They try to identify and they try to fix that, and make sure that the application is performing smoothly to the end user. So in the production environment, there is a separate team also who will be continuously monitoring the logs, and when they monitor those logs, they will identify the possible security. I mean, not just security; it can be functional issues too, and they will try to fix them even before the user reports it. So yeah, coming to traceability matrix, it's nothing but we have the say we identify the list of vulnerabilities, right? For each vulnerabilities we should be mapping at least one test. So that is what basically in technical terms traceability matrix is even done for the functional testing as well, where based on the requirements the QA would write the test cases, and like each and every requirement we map these requirements with the test cases that we have written. So in that way we make sure like each and every requirement has got at least one test case. So that is we even call it requirement traceability matrix, RTM. So here we do traceability matrix in terms of security testing as well, because in terms of like identified threats, we should be mapping at least one test case for each and every threat, so that each and every threat is tested and the result should be success, meaning like pass or fail. So usually we mark our test cases pass or fail. So it should be passed. So if some case has failed, which means that there is some issue again. So and the dev has to reconsider and they should fix it again. So that's about the traceability metrics and tool identification. This we have already discussed in the test planning. So we the test planning only we decide like which tool to be used, and test case preparation again, like for all the identified threats you will say for this particular thread I should be testing it this way. And coming to the execution part, in terms of execution here, we run the cases. So basically, whatever say you are using a tool, you give all the details and you say start testing. And manually executing, you just try to do some manipulations. Say when I say manipulation, it can be manipulating the URL, or it can be manipulating the text fields, or manipulating the whatever the code that I not the code with the website, whatever the link I have, I try to upload some malware and try to capture the data. So all these things should be avoided. So that is all checked under execution and reports finally. So once all this is done, in the reports we maintain the set. Like when I say, like as I already told, we will have the pass fail metrics over that. Like how many test cases we executed, how many were passed, and how many were failed. So for the security testing, the test result should be always 100%, and it is mandatory, because if it is not 100%, then you are like you need to wait for a lot of other consequences, whatever we had discussed before. So loss in the business, or yeah, the main agenda is the business would be impacted very badly, because at the our end criteria is maintaining a good business, and that is why security testing report should be always 100% success rate should be maintained. Yes, coming to different tools that are used, we have various tools, like as you are already seeing the screen. These are all like mostly whatever I have mentioned here are all open source tools, so anybody can use it. So you can also just go ahead and like try to say if you have started implementing your own application, you can try using these tools and you can try performing the security testing attempts, and you would be getting the results also for the same. And based on the results, you can come to a conclusion on like, okay, how stable or how good is my system, whatever I have built, and it would be able to figure out all the possible security threats that would be happening, that could happen to your system, and like you can try to like from this phase itself you can start uh, writing, or from the development phase itself you can start considering them, and then implementing it in that way so that your system is robust. when I say robust, uh, it is error free and it is free from all the security threats and is safe for the user who is using your application. Here we end the security testing, and I'll just give you a brief on API testing. So, as you are all in IT profile, so it's very important for you to understand API testing because it, as we initially discussed in the call, even the principles are uh, like importance for the QA as well as the development team. So API testing or the API just in terms API alone, it is has got equal responsibility for QA as well as the development because API plays such an important role today and the importance it has got in the current day. So there are specific roles for API testing alone, and like you will be paid in huge because playing around with APIs is not that easy. Like if you have UI doing the manual testing on the GUI, whatever you have, is very easy. But for doing API testing, you need to have the technical skills. You need to understand how to pass the data, how to get the responses, and like after you get the response, how do you analyze like whether the response is correct or not. So you will have equal responsibility as the dev, whatever they are doing. So that is why I purposefully wanted to explain this to all of you guys because it has got a huge importance in the current market, and the market needs are really high for the API testing. And yeah, let's continue further. I'll be briefing you. So, what is an API? Like as you all know, API is nothing but application programming interface. But what exactly it does and how it works? So, so as you can see this block diagram, whatever is written. So web app in the browser. So it is nothing but the end user, like who are using this platform. And through internet, what you do, you try to hit the web server. So how you are hitting the web server? So that web server, the request, whatever you do, say, imagine you are on some particular page and you are trying to log in. When you try to log in, a particular API is called, that is login API, and that API will carry the data, whatever you have provided, and it will take to the server, and the server will authenticate and it will let you further. So all the operations, say read, write, fetch, delete, all the operations happen through API. So that is why APIs plays an important role because, and the purpose of API testing is you can do lot of things even before the project is completely implemented. I mean developed. So here, so as I said, like why we do API testing because it's language independent. You, as I said, like you, there's no need of any graphical user interface or any particular interface for you to start testing. So you can directly fetch the data from the developers, like say what is the URL, what is the request type, and what are the parameters that I need to pass. And then once you pass the parameters, like how do you get the response? So and like there are many third-party softwares who give the APIs to integrate with the application. Say, just a simple example, you might have seen Facebook login, Google login, right, to many applications. So how that happens? That is through API. So when you try to click on login through Google, so the Google API is called, and when you call the Google API, Google further try to authenticate. Like if you are already logged in, Google will ask you. So this particular third party is asking you to log in, and you say hello. It will let you log in. And like if you say don't allow, because you might see like this, it might be clearly mentioned, like when you're trying to log in with Google, it clearly says they try to access your profile, they try to access your contacts, they try to access your profile picture, and like they might say like they try to access your date of birth, stuff like that. So like you feel okay, this seems to be insecure, and you say don't allow, then the Google login doesn't work, because Google returns that this user denied in giving the permissions, so I will not let the user to log in through Google into your application. Same goes with Facebook. So yeah, like as I said, usually all the APIs, the data transactions happen in the JSON format. So when I say JSON, it is JavaScript object notation, so it will be key value pairs. I will later, like once this is done, I'll just show you one API how exactly the responses comes up. So but just to have the basic idea, JSON, it is like usually the data whatever comes through these APIs are in the JavaScript object notation format. And like we already discussed, GUI independent, like there's no need of GUI for you to test the APIs. So once you have the endpoint, once you have the request type, and once you have the parameters whatever you need to pass, you can start testing, and like you can identify uh, the things. So that's about GUI. And improved test coverage, this is because say why it says improved test coverage, because you can't do everything through UI. Say imagine you are using login API, and you try to perform, you try to enter Manjesh at the rate. That's all. You don't enter the domain name. So this you can, when you try to do it through UI, it says the URL or the username is incomplete or something like that. But still, in API you can pass whatever the values that you like, and when you pass that particular values, uh, you will be able to see how the API is responding when you are providing something wrong. So if it is allowing you, then it is incorrect. So APIs, it should say like you are accepting something which is incorrect, and like you can report the same to the development team and they can fix it. Faster releases. So why faster releases? That is because, see, when you have already thoroughly tested the APIs, you will be confident enough, and like from once the GUI is implemented and all these APIs, everything is integrated together, your confidence levels will be high, because you are already confident because your APIs are doing a very good job. And UI testing, the time taken to do the UI testing reduces, because your APIs are already capable enough of handling different whatever the values or whatever the parameters that you are passing. The API is capable of handling. Even if from the UI you are allowing, API will however reject it. Say this is incorrect. So that is how the releases can be faster, and that is why even API testing is really important as well. Now, where is API testing performed? So there are as we all know, there are different layers. So we have the presentation layer, and that is nothing but the UI, UI, user interface. The business layer, where the actual transaction happens, and the database layer, which is where your all data is stored. Like all the when I say data, it is completely all the information that you are giving to the application is all stored in the database layer. And now like we were asking like where is API testing performed? So that is pretty clear. We are doing API testing in the business layer. So why I say business layer? Because all the transactions happen through business layer. And what is there in business layer, sir? API. Because as we already saw, uh, sorry, as we already saw here, as this diagram shows, this API is the core because it gives the support not only to the user but also to the server as well as the database. So that plays a very important role, and that layer, that's why it is called the business layer, because most of the transactions are taken care in the business layer through APIs. Yeah, that's about. And coming to different tools that we use to test API are like the most common tool is Postman. Even like if you ask your brothers or sisters who are into IT firm, they can tell you Postman because I can say nobody, like very few people don't know about Postman because Postman has gained so much importance in the current day, and like Postman can be used to develop APIs. It is used to test the APIs. Also, it is used to basically uh, what to automate the APIs. Yeah. So that's why Postman has really made life easy for many developers, testers. So that's why Postman is one of the popular tool when it comes to API testing. And there are other tools as well, like REST client. We have REST Assured is another tool. These are some of the four important, like majorly used tools that I have pointed here. But still, there are many other tools in the market, but maximum number of people use Postman. So these are about the different tools that we have used. So actually, I just wanted to show you one real-time example how the APIs work. So I'll just show you one real-time use of API. So say I will just click on Facebook. So before I do that, let me open the inspect element and I go to the network and I click on facebook.com. So you can see, right? There are a lot of things coming up here, and and you can see the status is 200 and the type is etc. So basically, these are all the different APIs and files that are getting called. So like we only know what is happening in the front end, but this is in the back end. So you can see, say now I click on login. So you can see there would be an API called for that as well. So Facebook is more secure, like it's very difficult to identify, but you can still see there are various APIs. So this is also an API. So HTTP is facebook.com/ and Ajax file is getting called along with the parameters here. In this, and you can see the request method is post and the status code is 200 because it was a success. And you can see what are all the things passed in the request header. So it will be difficult for the first time, because if you have already seen it, well and good, but if you have not seen it, that's still fine. Like you can play around with applications, and so let me try to access any other sites. Say what can I access? I'll try to access Google So I'll go to network. So and I'll start searching India and I click on it. So you can see, right? There is an API here. So the request method is get here, and the success code is 400 because when I search for India, you can see search. It says in the parameter the query is India, and like it also captures like who is the user. Like because I'm already logged in with my Gmail account, it is even capturing my user details as well, but that is in the encrypted format still. And it will also capture my latitude, longitudes as well, like from which location and what is my IP and what is the like all the details it will capture. And you can see in the request header the method type is get, and like I'm trying to request in the search string for India, and you can see the like usually for website it shows the response also. And I will just show you one particular thing. Let me go to Postman. So this is a Postman tool actually. It's just loading. Give me a few seconds. Yeah, so this is how the Postman looks like, and you can see here I have a request type called post, and this is the endpoint. So what I'm trying to do exactly here is here you can see in the API, like I'm trying to pass, like let me go to body, and if you can see here for the United States and for so and so zip code for the California state, and like basically this is address of the warehouse is an example, and this is the address of the location where my order has to be delivered, and this is the amount, and ID is the product ID, quantity is how many quantity of products that I am passing, and for this particular combination what is the tax that need to be calculated. Say it is very simple. For like this is a US based project what I'm working on, and so we just try to we charge the tax for the products that we deliver to the users. So it is similar to when you buy something also there will be a tax added to it, right? So that tax is basically calculated. So how is that calculated? So I am calculating it through one of the applications that we have, and like when I say send, so this API is now running, and it says 200. Okay, 200 is success, and there are many other codes as well. Like when I say 500, it's internal server error, and I say 404, that is something is not found. So stuff like that, and you can see total tax to be collected it shows 3.76, and like it has in detail given like what is for what. This is just again like as I said it's an example. uh, hope yeah, so that's about different tools we have already discussed, and now let's just conclude on the things that we have discussed so far. As we already discussed, security plays very important role in the software testing because security means everything. Because as I said, it is directly impacting the end user. So that is the reason. And like we have also discussed the various security testing approaches and the need for security we have discussed, and under various approaches we have discussed ethical hacking, SQL injection techniques, cross-site scripting, etc. Mm, yeah, and we also understood the purpose of API testing, why we need to do, and we have also understood the tools that can be used to perform the API testing. So, uh, Yeah. So these are some of the references which I have used for making these slides to present it. Uh, I can share this with you later. You can also just go through and try to know more about whatever we have discussed so far. And yeah, coming to my contact details, these are my contact details. You can make a note of it, and like anytime you feel like you have any doubts or you feel like you are in a confusion to choose what should I opt for the future, like what I need to do, you can feel free to reach out to me. I would help whatever I can do. And yeah, that's one important thing. And if you have any doubts in with respect with regards to testing, like what we have covered is just a bit today. Testing is really vast, and like it takes a lot of time to completely understand and do things. So if you at any point of time you feel like I you need any suggestions or guidance from me, feel free to reach out, and like I will be really able to help you on that aspect. And finally, thank you so much for this opportunity. Hope you all got good use of this session, and I am glad to be a part of this session in helping you all in understanding the security threats or whatever the different testing, whatever we have discussed so far. So, thank you so much for this opportunity. Hope you are all you have all got some good uh, sorry. So as I was telling, like I hope you make a good use of this session, and like it will be helpful to your whatever it will for your future, and like it will be really. I'm really happy that it can help you for your future aspects. Yeah, so that's it.
Thank you, Manjesh sir. It's been a great session which gave us insight knowledge about the testing strategies in for security threats. Now it's time to actively throw up the questions among the participants. So anyone with any questions, you can comment below so that sir would answer your questions.
Yeah, definitely.
So if any questions, please comment below.
Yeah, I'm actually expecting questions. If there are no questions, I can assume that you have not understood anything or you have understood everything.
Sir, there is one question from Professor Nanda Ashwin, Department of
Yeah,
ISC. So she's asking the question like, will the
yeah.
vulnerability be detected with an authenticated scan?
See, when it means authenticated scan in the sense, basically you are using some tool. You need to use a tool because that is when you can actually identify what could be the possible threats that are available, or maybe that is not handled in the application. So when you do authenticated scan, you can not get all the vulnerabilities, but you can get some good number of loopholes. Maybe it can help you find out the manipulation of URLs can be identified using authenticated scan. You can identify SQL injection is possible or not using authenticated scan, but you cannot completely figure out all the vulnerabilities. As I said again, if there is any malware attacks or cross-site scripting, those things we need special tools like which are designed to identify such security threats. So I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, sir. Ma'am, I hope you are clear with the doubt. So the sir, next question: how we can inculcate the testing strategy in our lab? By
Yeah,
Lakshmi Kura. So she is the 8th sem student, sir.
nice. That's a really nice question. So As I've already informed you, like there are various open source tools. So when I say open source, you need not go and get a paid license for doing the API test. I mean to use those tools. So since they are open source, you can try to set up those tools in your lab. Say you are using any like obviously you will have systems, so in those systems you can try to set up these tools and you can try to perform the scans or audits, security audits on whatever the software that you want to test. And by then, and like you can also try to explore how manually also I can like basically it's a kind of ethical hacking, I can say, identify different techniques using manually, meaning like manually you can use those techniques to even and then you can understand, like as I said, you can document the vulnerabilities through manually as well as through the tool, and by that you will be able to figure out and you will be able to set up things accordingly in your lab as well, like based on the vulnerabilities you identify. So it will help you in two ways. One is you are learning how to test the security aspect of any application. Secondly, you will be able to secure your application as well, so you are benefited in two ways when you do that.
Okay, sir, thanks with your answer. So the next question
uh,
is by Chirantan, HM student, sir.
yeah,
What is automation testing?
nice. It's really nice to see people asking about automation testing, because the current direction or the flow of the industry is in automation. So as I have already told, like the packages of the developer and automation engineers is the same. And like when I exactly to answer your question in precise, what is automation testing? See, imagine each and every application has to be tested, that's important. But if you are doing the same testing every day again and again, most of the resources or your time is consumed in testing the application. You will not have time or to focus on enhancing your skills or doing something better. So what you can do is you can try to automate. When you say automate, you can start writing a script. So to automate any web application, there is a tool called Selenium. So along with basically the coding has to be done either using Java, Selenium. Uh, there are like Python. You can use JavaScript. So using these different coding languages, along with the tools like Selenium for web applications, and we have APM for mobile application testing. So you can automate. Say you just define the flow of action. Say you write a code or a script in such a way that you are going and clicking on login, then you are passing the keys, then you're clicking on submit button, going to the home page, there you are performing some operations, and basically whatever the goal of your application. So you will be performing all those and you automate in such a way that you need not do anything, like you just run the script and the script will continue to run on your application. And we have some frameworks like TestNG where it will help you segregate. Say you can define the cases as well. Say this is test case 1, test case 2, test case 3, so up to n number of test cases. Say you have up to 100 cases, you automate all those 100 test cases, and all the 100 test cases it will give you. The test engine would be able to generate a report in such a way that it will show you like how many test cases are passed out of 100, how many failed, and the complete report you can directly submit it to the development team or the project management team, so that they can also understand what is the say what is the stability of the application. So that's automation.
Okay, well, so thank you, sir. So next question is by Ashwak, who is first time student, sir. So he's
Yeah.
asking what are the tools for automation testing?
I think I have already answered his question.
Ah,
Like as
yes,
I already
yes.
told, Selenium we have for the web application, and similarly we have APM for mobile application automation, and there is also something called as RPA, that is robotic process RPA, robotic process automation, where uh, that is even more simpler. Like there's no coding required at all. That is also one of the booming subjects. Like I can say booming, uh, like positions I can say in the market. Like we have requirement for RPA as well, and like it is also one of the highly paid jobs in the market. Apart from that, when I say non-functional, we have other tools like load runner we have, which is again belongs to HP and it is licensed. That is basically used for testing the capability, how well your system can adapt the load. Say at once, if 10,000 members are using my application, like is my system able to handle that load or not? So that is one example. And we have something called JMeter, which is used for performance testing. So when I say performance, it is again when lot of users are accessing, how smooth is your application performing. So is there any threats there, like when I say not a threat exactly, like is there any difficulty that the end user is facing, because uh, sometimes you might have seen like especially IRCTC. I can give you a best example. When so many people are trying to book the train, so the website is sometimes one. One more good example is if you want to book the slots in the Cowin website now. Currently, it is not possible. Like it says sometimes it will not at all load, and sometimes even if it is loading, you will not be able to book your slot because the load is really very high. Like large number of people are trying to access it, and it is not designed in such a way to handle such threats. So this is yeah. These are some of the testing like which are like very highly used tools in terms of automation. Pay
So the
scale.
next question
Uh,
is by
yeah.
Kajal Khilani. She is also fourth sem student, sir. What is the pay scale for test architecture? So she's
So
very
when
eager to
you
know about the
say
pay scale.
yeah, that's nice because
Yes,
ultimately
sir.
the
Yes, sir.
they need a good package, right? Nice,
Yes,
I
sir.
will appreciate it. See, when I say test architecture, so to define this, it is not actually architecture for testing. So in testing terminology, we call it as a test plan, as we have already discussed. Test plan you define like there are multiple things you define in the test plan. Say uh, like there are various testing approaches. I can give you a few examples. Say when the build is ready, you have to go with build acceptance testing or the smoke testing. We say so when we say smoke testing, like the result should be 100%. So because when these smoke testing or build acceptance testing will have the cases that is like the core functionality of the application are covered in that. So you basically define the complete plan. Say this is when testing starts. This is what you need for testing. This is when you stop testing. This is all the reports you have. So you have different set of criterias. You just completely document in like there are many tools like project management tools we have. Say I will just give you an example. Jira is it's a product of Atlassian, where it gives you a product called Confluence, where you can structure out or in pretty simple way I can even give you an example of Google Docs. Say like you can document all the details, and from the phase when testing starts till something ends. So to do all this, you should be in a position of test lead or basically a QA manager role. You will be in that role when you are doing this. And basically to start with, as I said, there are many MNCs, startups who are giving a really good package, which starts with minimum of like I'm talking about a startup. So even a startup for a QA role, like as a beginner, you can easily get up to 3 to 5 lakhs, ranging in between 3 to 5 lakhs. So, and also with respect, like if you are even good enough doing automation and you have shown your excellent skills to the recruitment team or the people who have come to hire you, in that case you can easily get up to a good package of up to 7 to 10 lakhs depending on the company. So from the startup to uh, MNCs I'm talking about. So that is where it ranges. Like for a fresher, I'm talking about. And if you are just manual testing and the requirement is only manual testing, in that case, you can still get a good package of 2.5 and up. So, like with respect to startups, a good moderate startup, I can say, well settled startup to an MNCs, you can get good number. I can say like you can get a good package out there. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So the next question is by Pratiksha ji. What hackers first do to check whether the SQL injection attack can be done or not? So she's also a fourth sem student, sir.
Okay, nice, nice question. So, see, hackers or someone like initially when they decide to hack your application, uh, they have all the possible security threats, and they will be with a plan to somehow break your application. So, we cannot exactly say that they will first try to do SQL injection attack can be done or not. It is possible that he will definitely try the SQL injection attack as well, or he will even try the initial would be like the best way would be he will be doing the error guessing. So basically, he will try to identify the different APIs in your system, and then he will try to uh, like error guessing he will do, and if those are not working he will then try the SQL injection method. If SQL injection is not working he will try to manipulate the URL, and even if that is not working he might try to uh, add some malware or trojan into your system. Like these are all the different ways, but when he is continuously trying with different strategies, if he somehow gets the loophole, then our system would be vulnerable to security attacks. So the best thing, like what we can do is like as we have already discussed, we need to have a proper approach, and with that approach, we should be able to stop it. And I mean, like we should be able to stop them at the very early attempt itself.
Okay, sir. The next question is from Chirantan. Apart from username and password, which variables are candidates for SQL injection?
Very nice. So basically, these two are the primary fields like which are actually visible, and other places could be when you are signing up. Also, you have various other fields like you have where you would be providing your username, password, and your email ID. User, I mean, like you will be confirming the password. These two are one place, and imagine if it is any other web application, say you have already logged in and there is some text field for you to enter the review, or you need to add the feedback or something, that review is again a text field. Say there also there are chances that user can try the injection. So all the places wherever the text field comes into picture. So and say search field also is a text field. So even that could be vulnerable to SQL injection. So yeah. So as I said, to be precise, to answer your question, like wherever the text field comes into picture, user can able to apply the. I mean, the hacker can try to do the SQL injection attack.
Okay, so this is the last question. by Rajshree's 8th sem student. Can we detect attacks in real time? That is when it's happening, or is it after an attack happens and then we detect?
This is really a nice question. I am really happy this question came up
Yes, sir.
because uh, we can identify in real time. I'll tell you how. So imagine this can happen in two ways. As I already told you, there will be a team to monitor the logs and also who is completely working with whatever, like, to identify okay what exactly is happening with our application. So the monitoring team will definitely notify, like, if the CPU utilization is going high, they will be getting an alert saying that the CPU consumption is very high, can you please check what exactly is happening. So the monitoring team and the DevOps team will definitely go ahead and check, like, okay, there is some say they notice a lot of requests coming from particular IPs, so they try to block that IPs. This is one time. This is one way. Other way, the end user is not able to perform something, he will definitely reach out to the customer support team of that particular business. Say we have, say on Amazon, you are not able to do something. You obviously reach out to Amazon customer support. You tell them that I'm not able to do this app, perform these things on my account, or so when they start investigating why you are not able to do that, they might identify, okay, there is some problem with his account. Maybe his account is hacked, or some person is trying to steal our data and like is impacting our customers. So that way, so in real time, as I said, the first, the appropriate way is the monitoring team will be able to identify the risks in real time and will be able to take some measures or the actions to stop it. And the other way is user can directly report it to the respective support team and try to uh, stop that. Are the
Okay, sir.
tools
There is now
for
one more question. The tools used for detecting attacks built using machine learning algorithms. Any example? By Chaitra CS, 8th sem student, sir.
nice? So when you say machine learning algorithm, uh, it need not to be machine learning algorithm. Like it can be like we can make use of it still, but it is not certainly machine learning alone. But yes, it can also. And these tools are like basically it's programmed in such a way that it can perform these threats whatever, like rather than doing it manually, these applications can form a security threat and then start when you ask that particular tool to test your application, it can go ahead and use even artificial intelligence also can be used here, not just. And then like as I said, any example, I'm not certainly like aware of any particular example here, but sure, I can try to explore and get you, like, if there are any tools that is built using machine learning. To understand that, we need to understand the core of that tool and come up with like then only I'll be able to give you an answer, like whether the machine learning algorithm is used in it or not. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for clearing everyone's doubts with so much of keen and interest. So I hope you all had a great knowledge gaining experience today. On behalf of PCCP fraternity, I thank resource person Mr. Manjesh to share his knowledge among us. I express
Thank you.
my deepest gratitude to our principal Prakash sir, who always supports and encourages us to conduct such events. I thank our department's captain, HOD sir, for his motivation. A special thanks to the organizing committee. Our heartfelt thanks to our students for active participation. And now the feedback link will be shared in the comment section, so you all can enter the feedback this link. So with this warm words and kind message, we move for to end the today's webinar. So thank you one and all. Have a nice day.
So once again, I will thank you, Mangesh sir. So for your time and effort So we have enlightened so much on the security threats. I hope
Thank
this
you.
will be uh, the kind of webinar required where the cyber attacks are exponentially increasing. So after
Correct.
seeing the graph, I am thrilled to see that the attackers are many and it's going like exponentially. So with more your explanation and starting with why the security testing is needed, then classification of testings, then expanding the tools what we are using, it is a enormous benefit to our students and faculties. I thank once again for your time and effort. I will
Thank
thank
you.
our management and my team members who are making this very successful. Thank you all. Most importantly, the participants, our students. Thank you all.
ಆಯ್ತಾ